I don't know what happened to our last introductory music here, but anyway, here we are, another Wednesday, right at the Sports Crib. I hope everyone is doing well. Got a little rain moving in out here in Southern California, just in case y'all thought it didn't rain out here. But I see Dave and Reggie's here. Dave, how are you doing this evening?
Doing okay. We had a bunch of rain out here too, back east. It was really coming down.
Oh man,
Yeah,
okay.
it always rains here. Absolutely. It snows. There was never any rumors about not raining in Atlanta, and it does rain here. And it rained
Uh,
today, as a matter of fact.
I thought that was supposed to be Washington, Seattle, and around there. I thought Atlanta was, temperate.
I mean, maybe in comparison to Seattle. I hear Seattle gets way more rain than we do. So we're in comparison to Seattle, absolutely. We're just Seattle in comparison to like Southern California. Like we just get way more rain than you guys get.
Oh yeah, you probably do. With that being said, guys, uh, do we have a Sue's Corner tonight, Dave?
No,
Oh
Sue
man.
she sends her regrets. She's been watching Reacher and binging on the R Murders, which is a Swedish murder mystery taking place in a ski resort in Sweden. So, but she said it's really a slow time. It was kind of a slog for her to find some sports stories, but she really enjoyed the last week talking about the hockey league from up in Canada, which was a lot of fun. But
Yeah,
next week she'll probably have something.
yeah.
That's
Okay.
interesting. I think, Dave, we need to kind of let me know, because otherwise I just wouldn't have showed up to this if you had told me this earlier. Like you tell me this, like, come on, Dave, you got my number. You can just reach out and let me know, and I'll just reach out to James and say maybe next time, buddy. Maybe next week. We'll get it together for next week.
All right, I'll let Sue know.
Oh, guys. Yeah, we all look forward to Sue's Corner because, she always finds a very interesting talk, something to talk about. And like you said, I mean, last week, I had never heard anything about a black hockey league, whether it was Canadian, but yeah, that was very interesting. And some of the other interesting topics she had too during the Olympics, all that. Yeah, yeah, you might want to give me a call too, Dave. Maybe we'll come on like 15 minutes later or something. uh, so, guys, we'll talk a little college football here. Like Sue said, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Things are going to be heating up here in NFL pretty soon as far as trade talks and who's going to get traded and who's not. But guys, we've been talking about the college football playoffs, and now we have a very familiar name, Mark D'Antonio. He's going to be among the new members of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. What do you think about this 13-man committee, if you've had time to look it up, Dave?
Yeah, well, it's 13 people, and right now they have five or six sitting athletic directors, five former players or coaches, and two former sports writers. They don't even work for their outlets anymore. One guy was with ESPN, the other guy was with USA Today Sports, but they're former contributors. And so what I wonder, and I'm not disputing any of their qualifications, the people that got selected, but these 13 people are making a big decision, those rankings. Could cost the program a lot of money if they're not selected, or they could make a lot of money. So I'm just wondering, and what I didn't really see was, what is the criteria to be on this group? other than, okay, I was once a college football coach, or I once, wrote sports. I'm just wondering what's the criteria. And like, there's like Middle Tennessee State. I think the athletic director from there
Right.
is one
Yeah.
of the guys.
I noticed that
University
too.
of Maryland. It was like, and I kind of get it. You don't want to have like the um, Ohio State athletic director on the ranking committee. So maybe that's the idea, is they don't necessarily want somebody that's going to be up there. Of course, D'Antonio, he's with Michigan State, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, for me, the big question is what is do they have a criteria? Because the decision that they're making whenever they do these rankings, it's going to have a lot of import, including, and we'll talk about this in a minute, including ultimately how the teams are seated.
What do you think there, Reg?
Well, I had no clue who this guy was until just now. Like I don't really know these people. So it's interesting
Well,
because
D'Antonio
I
used to
think
be the head coach of Michigan State at one time. I thought for sure, trying to rope Demetrius in here, but
Well, I
well,
guess they figured, hey, Michigan State's not going to be going to the CFP anytime soon.
yeah, I was gonna say the same thing too, guys. Like
He's
another
unbiased.
thing, guys. If your athletic director's on here, you know what they're telling you. We don't envision you being here. That's what they're saying to you as a team. So that's not good, right? Who wants to hear that? You think I want to hear the Bama athletic director is one of these people? No, I don't. I don't. Absolutely not. It shows you how they feel about us. So yeah, it's interesting, and I think that maybe more transparency about how you get on something like this, at least some of the requirements, because this just seems like a motley crew of people and with just directors of schools they don't ever expect to be there. Themselves.
Don, good to see that you're feeling better. How's everything down there in Texas?
Windy as hell.
Okay.
I swear, Lubbock, Texas, all that sand in Lubbock ended up in San Antonio somehow.
Wow.
It was bad. It was bad. But yeah, things in Texas are doing good.
Yeah. Oh, you're feeling better, I see.
Much better. Yes.
Yeah.
Back in the saddle.
Don, what did you think about D'Antonio joining this college football selection committee? And like I said, I don't know if you had time to look at it, but you got like the athletic director of Middle Tennessee. You got a couple sports writers. I mean, what's your thoughts here?
Well, it's funny because we're going back to using humans. I remember a couple of years ago, everything was computer. We're gonna punch you in the computer and strength of schedule and all that. And I think this new stuff going on, the AI that like Elon Musk keeps talking about. I think AI is the way to go as far as settling these disputes. I mean, I guess you got to have some humans involved somehow, but I'm gonna be like Reggie. I really can't remember who D'Antonio was, but if that's what they want to do, go for it. But I would like to see them use a little bit more something that doesn't have human biases in it. I guess, for lack of a better word.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Don, were you getting ready? Okay. Don, the SEC, which you guys now belong to, said the commissioner, Greg Stanley, said he's in favor of a 9-game conference schedule, but he's worried about the college playoff bids. Do you think he has a valid point there, Don?
He does. Even though the SEC didn't win the national championship this year, it's always going to be the SEC will always be pointed to as the conference, all eyes on it, and so I think that that kind of schedule they play in the SEC, where any given Saturday you could be falling down on your ass. It at the end of the season it works out to a lot of chaos sometimes. This year we had like Alabama being shut out, and like, well, SMU got in, but Alabama didn't. That type of stuff. So whoever wins the SEC is going to get beat up a little bit. That's a given. And will they still have the resume to to make the playoffs? They will. I mean, I'm just saying, but it's just a long season, extremely long season.
Well, that's why you guys cut out the spring game. That we were talking about that
Oh yeah.
last week. Yeah, we were talking about the effect of that last week. Dave, what do you think here?
Well, the Big Ten they already play 9 conference games, and then they play 3 non-conference games. So that's a total of 12 games. So I wasn't sure here whether, I mean, if they're playing 9 conference games in the SEC, well, then that would match the Big Ten. And then I don't know how many non-conference games that the SEC would have. I would presume the same number. But I think, one of the things that they need to be careful of or mindful of is parity. So I'll go back to the 1994 season, NCAA season. Penn State and Nebraska were 1 and 2, and Nebraska ended up being ranked first. And at that time, the only way that you could get a championship game is if the 2 college teams at the very top weren't obliged to go to 2 different bowls. But the Big Ten champion had to go to the Rose Bowl, and Nebraska was obligated to, I think, the Orange Bowl. I think it was.
Yeah.
So they couldn't play each other in the bowl game. And Nebraska basically won that national championship, even though I think Penn State did a lot to have deserved it. But they played 2 more regular season games than Penn State. So it was kind of like their record was a little gaudier because they did this season opener. And I think that, and this is already indicating that there's a disparity between how many conference games the SEC teams play in the Big Ten, because the Big Ten's already only playing 9 games. And I think that probably they're going to have to start looking at what are the regular season games that are going to count toward the college football playoff in order to have parity. Because you could monkey around with your schedule to give your team an edge on the other conferences for seeding purposes.
Yeah, but also, Dave, there's 18 teams in the Big Ten. If you're playing 9 conference games, you're still missing out playing 9 teams in your conference.
Well, that's been going on for years. That's always been the case. That's been going on for a number of years. They've had 2 divisions, and you never played all the. They never required that you play all of your games against Big Ten foes. So they were always missing somebody.
Yeah, I think I forget when exactly that started, but go ahead, Reg.
I'm going to kind of follow up with the exact use of the word parity, and I think that's a good point. If you if all conferences, I guess, were the same as far as or at least viewed the same as far as difficulty was concerned, then this has been a gripe in SEC because a lot of the SEC teams, we feel like we have to beat up on each other. We feel like we have to go through a whole different gauntlet to get to a certain place, whereas other teams we feel like can say they played 1 or 2 teams that maybe would have been in that SEC top in the mid SEC teams, but the way that we think about it, that team would have got destroyed in the SEC, but they're getting this look over SEC teams because we have losses to each other on our record, and I think that's hard. I mean, it's just difficult because you want to schedule these things. They're competitive. They're the games everybody wants to see, but you don't want another team to have kind of like a back door into the playoffs because they're not having to play these same teams. They're not having to go through the same thing. And then they get looked at the end. We all know how this goes at the end of the year. People look at the number next to their name as far as the ranking and being given the benefit of the doubt of being one of the best teams, and then going into the playoffs and getting blown out by one of the better teams that played better teams throughout the season. So I'm the 9-game schedule. Okay, I just wish that we had more parity. If it was equal all the way around, it'd be a little bit better for me to co-sign this.
Yeah, along what you're saying, Reggie, that's why I favor that they base the seeding based on a combination of their AP, the coaches, and the CFP rankings.
Yeah.
So that maybe like an SEC could have 2 teams that are ranked 1 and 2 if they're that much better than the rest of the country.
We're going to talk a little bit about that seeding now. Dave, started Reg. The leaders are waiting to decide on changes to the seeding format. Should it be the top 4, or should it be like it was last year, the 4 highest ranked conference champions? What's your thoughts here, Reg?
Always gonna be top 4 for me. I'm gonna touch top 4. I like the top 4. Whoever the top 4 teams are, like, we as we just spoke to, like, getting through some of these conferences. If all of the conferences were created equal, then I would say, okay, whoever wins your conference, obviously you deserve to be here. But it's obviously not true. It's not even true the way the divisions and stuff works out in the NFL now. It's not even true. You can have a team in a division that's way better than another team that didn't make it because somebody won 13, 14 games in their division. So I'm a top. I believe the top 4 should go versus the 4 highest ranked conference champions for me personally.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, well, that's what I was just saying is that I think I would rather go with some combination of the rankings. Doesn't have to be just the college football players' rankings or playoff rankings, which, that's how they determine which teams get into the playoffs. But it could be a combination of the AP, the coaches, and the college football playoff ranking. And, along with what Reggie was saying is because, you could have a conference that's so much stronger than the rest. Well, then why should they be punished because of the talent that they were able to attract to their schools? And so I think it really should it should be based on the top 4. The rankings, and then the other thing is, I think after each round, they should probably reseed the tournament based on the rankings as well.
What do you think there, Don?
Top 4 determined by computer AI. I'm consistent, but I'll get aside. The thing is, you remember 2 years ago when Florida State was undefeated and they didn't make the playoffs because their quarterback got hurt?
Yeah, Jordan Travis.
Yeah, looking back, that was a really shitty thing to happen. I mean, it really was. I mean, Florida State is, this past year notwithstanding, traditionally they're a very well respected, program. I mean, they won national championships, or, they've been in top 5 before. But just because you lose your quarterback, and that's the humans making that decision. A computer wouldn't do that. Just saying.
Well, I had mentioned that 1994 season, Nebraska had lost Tommy Frazier to injury, and so they could have just said, "Oh, well, you guys aren't going to be ranked number 1 because your starting quarterback got hurt," and then this Behringer, his backup, carried the team for a couple, really key games. So yeah. I agree with you, Don.
Yeah.
Tom Osborne had a system there where you pin the quarterback and they're going to, run an I with the option look. He always had an NFL quality fullback, NFL quality tailback, and a quarterback who wasn't being NFL, but he was going to make it run. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I think we've tried that before, but of course, like you say, Don, I mean, now AI is much more advanced, and it might be interesting, how AI could be used in that, and kind of take, the human factor out of it, as far as the corrupt side of it. It might be a very good idea. We have Missouri offensive tackle Armand Membu. Need Bill in here. Membo. Yeah, there you go. Makes a case to be the first O lineman picked in the draft over LSU's uh, Campbell. Uh, Membo is 6'4", actually 6'4" and a quarter, 332 pounds. He ran a 4.91 in the 40. He had a 34-inch vertical leap and a 9'7" broad jump. He also has an 82-inch arm span, which compared to Campbell, whose main criticism is how short his arms are. Don, what's your thoughts here?
I think Kevin Bates will be the number one offensive lineman taken in the draft.
Okay.
But no, I'm being facetious. Well, not really facetious, but no, the thing is you get to the combine, you start putting these guys to the test. Taking measurements, IQ test, broad jump, 40 time bench press, whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine and dandy. Go look at the fucking film and see what these guys are doing to um, the people in front of them. I mean, that's why I say Kevin Banks should be the number one, but that's just I am biased. Just saying.
What's your thoughts there, Dave?
I'm just wondering what Don was just hooking there, but well, I mean, I think that this is an example of a guy that he made a good gamble, because in the NFL Combine, there's an increasing number of players that are not participating in the events, and because it's like, okay, if I hurt a hammy, doing the 40-yard dash, I could be hurting my draft stock, and so people are taking they're making risk-based decisions, and in his case he made a good gamble. He seems like he had like an outstanding performance, but then, like Don says, is this the glitter that's going to cause somebody to maybe draft him too high, because he looked like such a great stud, in the underwear Olympics, known as the NFL Combine.
Hey, David, do you remember a guy named Tony Mandrich?
Yeah.
Underwear
Yeah.
Olympics? Yeah. There.
Yeah. So, and I think that for most NFL teams, if not all, but most NFL teams definitely, their scouting departments they've watched the tape. They've probably gone to a couple of the games, and they've done their evaluation. And the combine is more, originally it was just to consolidate the way they did their medicals. It was to save money so that each team didn't have to pay to do medicals and stuff like that. But it also helps the teams meet these players and kind of confirm the evaluations that they've already been making on the guy. And, but there's always a chance, especially in the lower rounds, somebody catches somebody's eye where maybe they'll take a flyer on them. I'll be interested to see where Armin gets drafted. And I'm taking a guess that the 49ers might grab him with their number 11 pick.
Okay. You think he'll fall down to number 11. All right.
Yep.
Reg.
Yep. I don't really have much on this topic, to be honest with you. I'm not really a huge fan of the Combine Underwear Olympics, as the guys have actually called it. I don't know what the time spent at a combine would tell you more than 30 or 40 games on tape will tell you. Like if you watch a guy play 30, 40 games, you've been watching him since high school, you have more games to even add to before that. I don't understand what you can see in this window of time at the combine that supersedes everything that you saw up to that point. So I think it helps maybe some of your guys who are on your who aren't the mainstream guys. Maybe it helps them a bit. They can get some press, get talked about a little bit. I know it's hard for them to get any press during the season. Some of the bigger stars out there. So some of the bigger stars skip. I think I could see the combine becoming that place where you go to try to find a gem somewhere, somebody that's not being talked about. Maybe they have to go to the combine, do a little bit more to get seen, and you start to discover some players there. But I don't really put a lot of stock in the combine. I never really have, to be honest with you.
All right. Okay. Reg, how patient are Bama fans going to be? You guys didn't make the playoffs this year. I understand this is what, the first year, second year without Saban?
Going into the second year this year. This year we're going second.
So, like I said, Reg, how patient are you guys going to be?
Not patient at all. They're Bama fans. Like we're a top school. Of course, we're not patient. We expected to win last year. This is his very first his very first year. As Bama fans, we're just not used to losing as of late, and we expected to be in the playoffs. It's devastating we weren't in the playoffs. And the expectation this year is not going to be any different than what the expectation has been the past few years, whether Saban's there or not, and that is to be in the playoffs and be competing for a championship. That's what the expectations are going to be this year.
So if you don't make the playoffs 2 years in a row, how much dissent are we going to hear?
It depends. I think that it depends on how you miss. If he was able to win 10, 11 games, maybe lose a game or two and barely edged out of the playoffs, that'll be a better situation than what I think the past year was. I think last year we lost 3 games, had a couple of bad losses. I don't think that he'll survive a year like that. So if he has a year like he had last year, the seat's going to get very hot very quickly.
Okay. All right. Don, Texas is raising season ticket prices by $13 per game. They're also talking to West Virginia ex-head coach Neil Diamond for some role. Don, give us
Neil Diamond, huh? Neil Diamond's coaching now. Goodness gracious. And they're asking anybody. Yeah, okay. Right.
Neil
Sweet Caroline.
Yeah, so what's Neil's role going to be, Don? And what's the deal here with the raising prices?
Well,
we still got to go to Oklahoma to.
We knew the price the price was going to change. The demand for season tickets is astronomical right now.
Yeah, man.
I made my payment yesterday, as a matter of fact. So I'm in $13 per game for 6 games. If you're paying all that anyway, why not just pay a little bit more? I don't mind. So it's okay. So Neil Brown is the former West Virginia coach who's coming in. So Sark is kind of like he's joining the crowd that as far as teams adding staff, used to be when I was playing, you had a position coach, and that was it. You had an offensive defensive coordinator, your position coach was head coach, that was it. Now you have an offensive analyst, you have a defensive analyst, you have a separate coach for the safety, separate coach for the corners, separate coach for the nickel backs. Wow. Defensive end coach, linebacker coach, defensive tackle coach. Tight ends coach, which used to be just part of offensive line. But now they have, they're bringing more analysts. Now they have player personnel. They have high school relations. They have, they have a GM now. So
Don, your linebacker coach makes $1.3 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think Neil Brown is going to I don't know what his official title is going to be, but I think he's going to be helping out more on the defensive side of the ball, if I remember right. Um, and this will be I think the third former head coach that Sark has hired since he's been there. He had Patterson from TCU there. He had the Chris guy from Wisconsin there. Now he has Brown. So I think the more eyes you have on the field, the better. I mean, it's not like he's just getting these young GAs. He's getting like veteran former head coaches who know stuff about the game, and so I like the idea. And we have to pay him, and that's why our ticket prices are rising.
Don, I'm thinking because there's some other schools that have hired former head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if they're trying to exploit their recruiting networks because recruiting is becoming more and more competitive, right?
Yeah. So right now, Texas is hitting Georgia and Florida hard. And I know that we just hired a new defensive tackle coach, a new running backs coach. The running backs coach is replacing Tashard Choice, but his specialty is Florida, and there's like a shitload of 5-stars that are looking at Texas from Florida. So, hey, I'll take it.
Hey, coaches have to go where they have to go.
Exactly.
In order to get that talent, especially like you say, Reggie's looking for parity. Well, the coach is not looking for parity. Coaches want to win. Reggie, Troy Vincent says it's time for the NFL to rethink the overtime rule. What do you think?
I hear stuff like this, and I kind of wonder what conversations people are having that I'm not having in life, because I didn't get to the end of the NFL season and talk to my buddies and say, you know what, guys, that NFL overtime rule is just something that we got to work on for next year. To get that needs to really be nailed next year. I'm not sure why this is a point of discussion. Even if it is something that needs to be changed, even if you were like, hey, we would change the NFL overtime rule, I could just probably think of other things that would be better to be changed before that, like just like priorities of things. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this has been a point of contention somewhere with some people, but I don't know why this is even a thing, to be honest with you. I'm not sure why this is even being discussed.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I think, the one thing I read is it's because of the coin flip. The chances of winning an overtime game dramatically increase if you win the coin flip. And they've fixed it in a way. What's that?
The rule change wants to be where both teams get a chance to have the ball regardless. Whereas now it's if you get the kickoff, you make a touchdown, the game's over.
Right. They're getting rid of the automatic sudden death in the case of a touchdown on the opening drive. And I mean, for me, I'm like with Reggie, that wasn't on the top of my list. Like if I had a list of 100 things about the NFL, I don't know that it would have made it's maybe 101. Right. But if I were going to tweak it at all, I kind of like the idea of saying, okay, well, we're going to give the other team a chance, because now what that's going to do is if you do score a touchdown on your opening drive, now you got to make a big decision. Do I go for the point after, or do I go for a 2-point conversion? Because if I just kick the point after, and now the other team gets a shot, if they score, well, now they can go for a 2-point conversion to win the whole game. And I think that might add a little bit of, make it a little bit more exciting than kind of like anticlimax. The team, it's like when the Steelers lost to Denver. I still have nightmares about the game. When they went to overtime and then they scored the touchdown on like the first pass. I think Ike Taylor got burnt. But I think that might add an interesting element So, hey, I scored a touchdown, but hey, the game's not over. I got to make one last decision. Do I go for a point after or a 2-point conversion? And if I can't stop the other team, now depending on the decision I made, could result in who wins the game.
But that's start number 101.
What's that?
I said, but that's start number 101. Getting before you get down to that point, you got 100 other things that worried
Oh
about.
yeah. I'm fine with it the way it is. I'm just saying if they were going to make a change, that's what I would want to see.
All right, Don, you got on the Black Sox, or you with this?
No, I'm going to go total. Y'all are going to think I'm nuts, but here it goes. So my idea for overtime, and I kind of got the idea from soccer of all things. When the clock goes out, just add 8 more minutes, and continue playing to where the ball was. Whoever had the ball when the clock went off, they keep the ball, and got 8 minutes to throw 8 minutes on there, and if you go down and score, that's fine. Got to kick off. The other team has a chance to score 10. If it happens again, add another 8 minutes. Just keep adding minutes until it's over. Now that's crazy. But think about this: how many times have you seen?
What if time runs out on you, though, Don? What if you're driving and time runs out? Is the game over?
No. If it's tied, you're still adding time until there's a winner.
No, I'm saying suppose the first team goes down. The game is tied at the end. You add 8 minutes. The first team goes down. They score. The next team goes down. Well, maybe time runs out while they're in their drive. Is the game over?
No. You keep until there's a winner. You keep going.
It sounds like the game would be over in that last instance when that last time runs out. So basically, when the time runs out and somebody's winning, the game's over.
If it's still tied, you keep adding time. But if there's someone whoever's ahead whoever's ahead when the game is over is the winner, just like normal.
Okay, all right.
So So here's an example. There's 50 seconds left in the game, and Team A just scored and tied it. They kick off. Team B gets the ball, and they're after 3 downs, they're 4th and 1. Time runs out. Okay, 0-0 on the clock. Add 8 minutes. They can punt it or they can keep driving. Depends on field position. I think that's what they kind of do in soccer, right? I've been to one soccer game, and I remember they added time just for the hell of it.
They do their extra time. So if soccer has to run for 90 minutes, but they don't do any time stoppage, like in NFL, they'll have like time stoppages, but soccer doesn't do those. So they accumulate. So whatever time they accumulated in those stoppages is played at the end of
there you go.
Okay.
Injury time.
It's not true, but I think they just add time until there's a winner. If there's 8 minutes and you get the ball and you hold on to it for 7 minutes and 50 seconds, you score. Well, their team, they got 10 seconds to score. maybe they'll do the Stanford versus California, lateral.
Bring the band on.
Yeah, but that's just me. I'm kind of out the box some days. So
okay. Reggie, because of our fantasy experience, I'm going to give you this question. Okay. The 49ers trade Deebo Samuels to the Commanders for a 5th round draft pick. What's your thoughts here, Reg?
I think on paper it's exciting. We had this conversation a few weeks ago, guys, when we discussed Deebo and Cooper Kupp. We were discussing both these guys, and me personally, I did not necessarily want him in Atlanta. I feel like when you look at what the numbers are for Deebo and Cooper Kupp, they look better sometimes on film than they actually look like on paper. Like, so I don't know if they were ever like, when we look at them on film, they look like $20-30 million guys during certain games. But then we look at what their the season or their accumulation for the season or what they put up at the end of the year, then they don't seem to be those $20 to $30 million guys. So it's rough because they're going to leave and convince somebody to pay them that money. And I was definitely hoping it was not going to be the Falcons or the Steelers. So I was definitely glad he did not land with either one of those teams. But I think that when he does play, he's a talent. I'm excited for another weapon for Jaden Daniels. You know how I feel about Jaden Daniels. I do love him. And if Debo can stay healthy, I think he's an exciting player. But it's just that's a lot of ifs because they don't just if the money, like they really want the money. So you're going to have to pay a guy and then just hope he can stay healthy, whether he's had a habit of staying healthy or not.
Are you? I think I hear you cursing about Debo on Saturday mornings, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
Don, what's your thoughts here on Debo joining the Commanders and the Commanders only happen to give up a 5th-round draft pick?
I think the Commanders made a wise decision. I think that they just got a little bit better, and depending on how the draft goes, they might be top 3 in the NFC. Because Daniels is a hell of a football player. He's a good quarterback, and Samuels, he's a veteran, and he has a good supporting cast. So I like the Commanders right now.
Yeah, look at what they did last year with a couple of no names,
Scary Terry and a couple other guys, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. A couple of no names and Scary Terry. So, Dave, what's your thoughts here, man?
Well, I mean, the one thing for, in the short term, it's good for the Commanders. It's a good compliment for Terry McLaurin if they can, if they re-sign him. And, so that's a really good tandem. Now, Debo Samuel, I was surprised. He's only gained over 1,000 yards one time in his career.
One time ever. Same thing with Cooper Kupp, Dave. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. Both those guys.
Yeah, I was surprised. But, like Reggie said, what's his injury history, but look, they're looking to win now, and I'm not sure, but I think that Washington picked up some of his salary so that it's given the 49ers, for them, it's not only that they get the 5th rounder, but now they get some additional cap space.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So for the 49ers, and maybe they're looking toward building out. And
there's still a possibility that they might trade Ayuk.
Correct. Wow. And so we'll have to see. But I think for the Commanders, I think that they surprised a lot of people last year, and I think right now that they sense, hey, this is our chance to go for it. So I think it's a good move for Washington, and I can understand for how it helps the 49ers. But as long as he stays healthy, I think the Commanders might have the edge.
Yeah, great player when healthy, and a 5th rounder too. I forgot to touch on that. Not bad. Not bad for a 5th rounder whatsoever.
Yeah, like you said, Dave, the 49ers, they get the cap space. And the Commanders get a guy that's good for at least the next 2 years. You don't expect him to go much past that. But Dave, the Not Yet's released Devontae Adams. Any tread left on those tires, Dave?
Well, between his last 2 teams, between the Raiders and the Jets, he had over 1,000 yards last year, and he's gained over 1,000 yards the last 5 years in a row. Now he's 32, but there has been some talk of the Steelers maybe being interested in signing him, and on a short-term deal that might work because he would be a nice compliment for George Pickens. I wouldn't want him to be I wouldn't see him as the number 1 receiver, although he has that talent, but he's on the downside of his career. But I think he would be excellent to pair up with somebody like a George Pickens. I think that would give defensive coordinators fits. So I think for the right place, I think Devontae Adams will find a home, and Pittsburgh is probably Omar Khan is probably going to be one of those that's checking them out.
What do you think there, Don?
On the, I'm sorry, I had to go to the bathroom real quick. What was the question?
I was talking about the not yet's. They cut. Well, they didn't. They released Devontae Adams, and I was asking, do you think that there was any tread left on that tire yet?
That tire's getting kind of bald. You know, some team might take him, just as an insurance policy to, to boost up the roster. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a team that will sign him, but you just never know. Stranger things have happened.
Reggie, what do you think?
Yeah, he's got tread on the tires. Looking at his stats here, it's the age, if anything. Maybe because he's 32, so maybe because it's the age you're looking at. But if you're looking at the stats, the last time a guy didn't catch 1,000 yards, 2019, and he caught 997. Caught 997 in 2019. If he had caught 1,000 yards there, you'd have to go all the way back to 2018. So 2017, he caught 885. He caught 997 in 2016. He caught 1063 last year. So if you decide that Devontae Adams just doesn't have anything left, it's just something that you're just saying. Like, I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and have something left, but it's kind of like we're having the opposite conversation about Devontae Adams that we have about guys like Cooper Kupp and Debo. Where we'll look at these guys and we'll feel like, oh, of course they got tread left on the tires. And they don't have seasons anywhere near what Devontae Adams casually does. Casually has seasons better than them. So, and we're questioning whether he has anything left on, if he has anything left. So I think that he should get the benefit of doubt to get down to at least where he has, 700 yards or so, 800 before we start saying, do you have any tread left? I don't think that's fair to a guy who's literally coming off 1,000 yards just last season.
Yeah, and remember those 1,000 yards were with ayahuasca.
And it was split between two teams. It's impressive because it was split between the Raiders and the Jets. It's not like Peyton Manning ain't playing for the Raiders either. So he got those yards between the Raiders and the Jets. I think that's pretty impressive in of itself.
Mr. Scott, how are you doing this evening?
Gentlemen, I'm doing great. I see that we've gone back to the old basics of keeping me in the peanut gallery for a while. I mean, that's fine. I understand.
Well, we don't want to interrupt. We don't want to interrupt. Another gentleman. But
of course, you don't want to interrupt Reggie because he's another one that's been ducking me. He's become the new Demetrius. He's become the new Demetrius. He's become the new Demetrius.
You don't unleash the beast until the right time, Anthony.
So, Mr. Scott, what did you think about Devontae Adams being released by the Jets? Do you think that there's any tread left? All these guys are talking about it.
Well, I really, I kind of agree with Reggie on that. I mean, for one thing, I think they just got him as a nookie for the quarterback. For when he was there, that's somebody he wanted, and they went ahead and got that and thought, this was going to help them get over the top. It didn't work. And so I hope it can move on. I mean, I know football and basketball are different sports, but when you look at Take My Talents and what he's doing at 40, you look at Take My Talents. I mean, and I think what they're doing is trying to push the market down for these guys. It's almost like there's this 30-year-old barrier, like running backs, and that they can't do it anymore. And I don't subscribe to that. I mean, I think I could still get out there, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to prove a point. I don't want to prove it that bad, but I'm just saying, I think he's got I think he has years left. I mean, he was productive. He's always been productive. And why wouldn't he be if he gets with maybe the Kansas City Somebody like that, I think he'd be a nice pickup.
Okay, all right. So the Bears, they got guard Jonah Jackson from the Rams for a 6th-round draft pick. Jonah, if you look at his stats, I believe he was out mostly all of last year. And the year before that, he was also kind of prone to injury. The Bears have picked up a lot of offensive linemen. They're looking for now a center, I believe. But Mr. Scott, when you look at Jonah Jackson, did the Rams just sell ice to an Eskimo?
Well, you look at these lower round draft choices. I mean, they're just sending a message that that's what they're worth. I mean, but if somebody's interested in you, you have to be worth something. So I don't know. I don't really know what to think of the Bears. I wish the great Bill Carroll was here because then I could just joust with him about the Bears. I don't know. I don't know about the quarterback. I really don't know where the Bears are going. This is a tough division in the Central Division. So it's a move that like I say, giving people lower. At least they're saying they have some respect for you because they give a draft choice for you, but it's low, and that's going to lowball their money.
Okay. What do you think there, Don? Did I get Don in here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We got you. Well, we could hear you. We can't hear you now. What happened, Don? We could hear you. We can't hear you now.
No, he can't hear us.
Right. I was gonna say he's not speaking. That's probably why we can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
No. I don't think so here.
No.
He's feeling around there.
Well, go ahead,
technical
Reg.
difficulties. Jay, you need to get a producer. Maybe you need to get staff. I mean, I don't know.
I'm kind of like I really don't know, to be honest with you guys. Why are we even talking about a 6th-round draft pick? To be honest with you, I get it, but it's a slow cycle. I guess a slow news cycle, like in where we are in sports right now. I genuinely get it, but a 6th-round, a guard to get for the 6th-rounder, okay. I mean, he could be great. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I don't really know.
Like I said, he missed all last season in injury. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think he was kind of done. They brought him back too early. He bruised his shoulder in training camp, and then I think the first or second game, he fractured it. And so I think that there's an example of where a team brought a guy back from injury, and then it got worse. And then later in the season, they brought him back again, and he hurt it again. So what I'm thinking is maybe, what the Steelers like to do is they like to have a reserve lineman that has position flexibility, can play, like they'll have an interior lineman that can play center, left guard, or right guard. And so I guess, maybe for the Bears, maybe what they're thinking, hey, a 6th-round draft choice is, if he's going to give us that stability there, 6th-round draft choice is fine. He would have to pass their medical because, usually the conditions of these types of trades is it's conditional on passing the team's medical. So I'm sure that they're going to be going over that shoulder to make sure that he's ready to play. But I just think it's unfortunate that he came back too soon. He started out with a bruised shoulder and ended up with a fractured shoulder.
Yeah, the Bears, like I said, they also acquired another guard. I forget for another 6th-round draft choice, and they're also looking for an offensive center. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, they're throwing around draft picks like they're ready to take on Minnesota and Detroit.
Yeah. Well, Dave, the Eagles made Saquon the highest paid running back with the 2-year extension worth up to 41 mil. I believe it was 28 mil guaranteed, 13 in incentives. But they also released both their veteran corners, Darius Slay and James Bradbury. What's your thoughts here, Dave?
Well, I mean, in the case of Saquon, I mean, he between him and Derrick Henry, those were the two biggest free agent pickups at running back. They really helped both of their teams. And Saquon Barkley really, I mean, he had a tremendous season, so he's earning his money. It sounds like he's put his injury history that he had with the Giants behind him. Hopefully that continues. With the defensive backs, at the beginning of last year, that was a weakness with the Eagles. You know, they were saying, hey, they got problems on defense, specifically the secondary.
Right.
And Darius Slay seemed to have a good season, but he's, I think, 34. And so I guess they're going to be looking at rebuilding their secondary.
No,
And
they
I
got
guess
those two young guys played most of the Super Bowl.
Was it DeJean Cooper?
Yeah,
Chris
DeJean.
Cooper in the secondary.
Yeah, DeJean and what's the other new kid that they got? The two rookies. They,
I forgot. Oh, yeah, I know that. I know the other kid you're talking about too. I know the other kid you're talking about also. They both played pretty good this year. Both of them.
but you have to have depth. I mean that's the thing. You know, with these long seasons, you can have two great starters, but I know the Steelers' experience is sometimes, you know, at one point they were having to make Patrick Peterson, who was a cornerback a couple seasons ago, into a safety because they were running out of defensive backs, and they carry like 11 defensive backs on their roster. And so, I mean, to me, they're going to be rebuilding that secondary room to find steady replacements because it's hard for an NFL player to play 100% of the defensive snaps or offensive snaps, depending on their position, for an entire 17-game season, and then plus, you know, potentially another 4 playoff games.
No, they released him outright, dude. You know, so you know it shouldn't be hard for other teams to pick him up. What do you think, Don?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. So I think Saquon deserves every cent he gets. I'm surprised he wasn't being paid more, but I guess there is a limit to what we can pay, right? But yeah, I'm happy with Saquon. I've become a big Saquon fan, especially this past year, just the way he carries himself, and he just seems to be the kind of guy that you'd like to hang out with and hope your son becomes like. So I'm glad that Saquon is there. You know, the Eagles are going to be tough. I think in the NFC, you look at the Eagles, the Commanders, and maybe Vikings, maybe Detroit. We'll see, but it's gonna be fun, especially draft day is gonna be fun. So I want to see how these teams build their roster around the draft and free agency.
Mr. Scott.
Well, I agree. You know, Don, he's really the only voice of reason on this program. I mean, I just thought I would throw that out there because Saquon is underpaid. I mean, come on. Why all of a sudden they're undervaluing all these running backs that are still getting it done? And I understand they have some kind of a ceiling that they think when they get 30 years old, and there's history of people that once they hit that barrier, they're not good. But Saquon, boy, he just seems like he's the gold standard of, you know. So yeah, I think he's underpaid. I'm glad he got a contract, but he's undervalued as they do with the running backs, and then these defensive backs, they seem to have a use by date. In that, once they get older, it's like they keep them because of their savvy, because they know how to. But as far as the production, it just keeping up with these receivers and these tight ends and these schemes that are out there. I think that they're the ones that have the real use by date, the defensive backs, because I think that the physicality of it, the covering these, Justin Jefferson and these people. I mean, that's a big job. So yeah, it's just how you set your roster up.
Mr. Scott, rumor has it that the Vikings aren't going to tag Sam Darnold. Does that mean that you guys are all in on JJ?
Yeah, it's already done. They're not going to tag him, but that still is not it's just that they didn't want to give him the $40 million. They just depends on what the market is for him. If there's somebody that gives him the bag, which is a possibility, somebody might. But our most recent memory of him is these last 2 playoff games where he just kind of folded. So they decided, well, we don't want to tag him. They seem to be leaning toward going with the Michigan guy. And then they have the New York quarterback. What's his name? David Jones?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones. And so that's, they may be having a plan that he's going to kind of play until McCarthy's ready. But I still think Sam Darnold is still on the table. I still think it just depends on what the market is for him. I mean, I think he would come back here for a reasonable 2-year contract, maybe. We'll see. We just have to see what the market is for him. I mean, he's a free agent now. I think the bigger question is what, Reggie's going to do with the banker down there. I mean, I think that's a real bigger question there.
I am ready to answer that question. As a matter of fact,
I think that's the bigger question. I mean, it looks like Penix is their guy. So how do they dump that? So
Raheem said that as the last I read it, Raheem said that Kurt was going to be the backup, but Reggie, the Falcons do miss the playoffs for the 7th straight season. And the coach, he said he's ready to build around Penix. And he also wants to see the best of Kyle Pitts this year. So, Reggie, what's going on down there? Like I said, the last we heard, Kirk Cousins will be the $100 million backup. He's due, $25 million this year or something like that?
Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind that, to be 100% honest with you. If Kirk would actually take, if he would, I think Kirk would have an opportunity to start somewhere if he wanted to next year. So that would be interesting to see if he decides to, at his age, take a backup job. I don't know why he would, but if he does, I wouldn't necessarily be upset about that. The building around Penix, you kind of put yourself in. What else you're going to say? Like, of course you're going to say we're going to build around Penix. You drafted Penix, you have nobody else. Like, so saying that you're going to build around the quarterback that you drafted at 8 is not really saying anything to me. You're starting the guy, so of course you're going to be building around him. The Bucs are still the team to beat in this division, due to the fact that they've won it over and over again. So until something changes there, Baker still played pretty well last year. Waiting to see the best from Kyle Pitts. We've been waiting to see the best from Kyle Pitts for years. So Kyle Pitts is a point of contention down here in Atlanta because people felt like he has not really been the guy that we felt he was. I think we drafted him like 4th or somewhere around there. And people in Atlanta don't feel like he's lived up to the billing, so to speak. So we're probably going to pick up his option for this year, and his option price isn't terrible. I think it's around $10 million, but I think once he gets outside of there, he would probably be out of ATL, to be honest with you. So that would be it.
So they're going to pay Cousins as a high-price backup?
I don't know, man. I personally wouldn't mind it, but I don't know that you would do it. If another team would draft him, if another team would take him, why would you do it? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. To me, it doesn't make sense for either party. I don't know why he would do it, and I don't know why the team would do it. Like, so to me, it's nonsensical for people to say stuff like that. And I would be super surprised if you get there and it actually happens. But no, that's kind of crazy to me. Kirk's not 25, bro. You can't be taking backup jobs and just sitting there and waiting for years and years. You put up over 3,000 yards last year and coming off of a significant injury. See what you can do another year. If you come out another year and you're regressing, or you're putting up less than 3,000 yards and stuff like that, and still have those turnover issues that you had before, then it's time to sit it down. Yeah, but I think I would take another year to prove that, though.
But he is due what? Like I said, 28.7 mil this year. Because that 100 mil is guaranteed. So you're gonna have somebody's gonna have to pay him. Either that, if another team
might end up doing that Russell Wilson situation, man. We might be on the bill might end up putting some of that bill, and hoping that somebody will take them somewhere else and pay for some of it.
Maybe the problem that Atlanta has bargain basement. Maybe the great Pittsburgh, they love the bargain basement type deal. So
here we go.
No, nobody's going to touch him. The problem for Atlanta is that he's a $65 million dead money hit this year, and they would. He almost has to be carried this year. I would think. I don't think they can afford to cut him. Yeah. And who's going to trade for him? Who's going to pay that kind of money?
Nobody's going to pay the money. So we already know that, right? Like that at the number that Kirk's at now. No.
So he's in the Mr. Massage category.
Right. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying
we're going to go by a factor of 0.5.
Without the charges, though.
Right. Minus the charges. Minus the charges. But I'm out of here, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Give us your final thoughts before you go, Reg.
My final thoughts is now, after listening to these guys talk, hoping that we don't maintain Kirk Cousins as a backup quarterback, man. I mean, I thought the idea was okay, but now maybe we need to get rid of this guy. I'm not sure. So that's it for me.
Take care, Reg.
All right, guys. I'll see you. I think next week. I'll be on next week. See you guys.
All right. See you. So, guys, what do you think? If the Vikings don't tag Darnold, do you think he's going to be in a different uniform next year, Don?
Quite possible. I understand the kid had a rough end of the season, but through 13 games, I mean, the kid was ice. So I think they're kind of throwing that baby with the bathwater, whatever it's called. They shouldn't be giving up on so fast. But if he doesn't get some appreciation, he'll probably be in a different uniform, and I think the kid still has a bright future. We'll see. I'm not a big Vikings fan, but I do like Sam Darnold, as a player. So hopefully he ends up somewhere he can contribute and win some games.
So people are saying that his success was Kevin O'Connell. I mean, because he's been around the league, he's a high draft choice, hasn't done anything. So people are saying that Kevin O'Connell is the guru that's pulling the strings behind him, and that's one of the big question marks. And a 41 million tag. When you already have a number one guy that you really want to play. They've got a couple of decisions to make, and again, I just say this goes to what the market is for Darnold. If there's somebody that wants to come in and give him, 2 or 3 years at up to 70 million, 80 million, then I'm sure he's gone. But is anybody going to do that? That's what we have to wait and see.
Never underestimate the stupidity of Jerry Jones.
Yeah, he is going to lose both his backups this year. Rumor has it Trey Lance is gone and Cooper Rush also, but we'll see. Dave, what's your thoughts here about Sam?
Well, I mean, he's young, and I mean, he like Don was saying, he had a good season, and I think Minnesota for them is if I'm Sam Darnold's agent, I'm not signing anything until Monday. Whenever the tampering period, the legal tampering period kicks in to see what the interest is, because I think he's still a starting quarterback. And there's like we talked about it before. There's 5 or 6 teams in desperate need of a quarterback. Just a starting quarterback. So they're either going to have to draft one or they're going to have to sign a free agent. And I think Sam Darnold, he'll be, if not at the top, very near the top of the free agent market.
I think Sam Darnold would be great somewhere like Tennessee, maybe New Orleans, maybe Indianapolis.
Yeah, well, they did say that Richardson is going to have to compete with someone, but we'll see. Right now, his only competition is who? Joe Flacco? Isn't Flacco the backup in Indianapolis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought so.
A lot of teams need a quarterback. A lot of teams, Darnold could look good on, a couple of those teams. So that's, I think the Vikings still have interest. They just didn't want to tag him. That's what I think.
Right. And if there's not that interest, maybe Minnesota still has a chance to sign him for something less than $41 million.
Yeah, but you tagged the tackle, didn't you, Mr. Scott? Didn't who did the Vikings?
Yeah, but it wasn't at that mountainous money.
No. But it was. I thought they tagged a lineman.
Yeah, they did, but it was it wasn't at that mountainous money.
Okay, all right. So Don, what's going on down there in Jerry's world? He's Schottenheimer, Eberflus. The coaching choices that he's made so far. Still no signing for Micah Parsons. He did sign the tackle there that plays beside Parsons. A name that Bill couldn't pronounce, but not me. So Don, what's going on down there in Jerry's world?
Well, whenever you have a coaching change, there's changes everywhere. Of course, your coaching staff. I think maybe only 2 guys were retained. Can't remember off the top of my head. But it doesn't matter who the coaching is. Jerry be calling the shots. Doesn't matter who the general manager is, because Jerry is the general manager, him and his son. And so, Coach Schottenheimer is going to have a very different experience in Dallas than what he's had in his previous coaching stops. So that will be interesting. I think Dallas will still be on draft day. Will be trying to find a running back. Maybe a different running back. Probably another receiver, just because Jerry Jones likes receivers, but they really need to work on their linebackers. Overshone blew out his knee again, and he was having a great year. He blew out his knee, so they're going to have to, build some depth there. But I really don't keep up too much on the offseason with Dallas, because if I did, I would be glued to my phone, and I have a job to do, So,
Dave, why are the Steelers lollygagging about this quarterback decision? I saw they only have a couple more days to make one about the Fields or not. We signed a tight end, David Parsons. When I think maybe we got him at a bargain basement price. But I think we might have been able to go somewhere else with that. But Dave, Are we going to get in the free agent cornerback market?
CB, you mean?
Any one, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's a few corners that are going to be out there.
Yeah. So, well, with the secondary, they'll probably try. They need to try to sign a outside corner. Now they have Dante Jackson, and maybe they'll re-sign Dante Jackson. He had 5 interceptions last year, but if they don't, they'll probably sign somebody else. I'm sure that, like I said before, Omar Khan is probably going to check out to see how much tread is left on Darius Slay's tire, and maybe sign him to a 1-year deal. They also need a nickelback. They have the young undrafted free agent Beanie Bishop. That did okay last year, but Mike Hilton has indicated that he might not be returning to Cincinnati, so maybe that's a possibility. And then there's a lot of interest in Hobbs. Is it Marcus Hobbs or Nate Hobbs? So I would imagine that in free agency, the Steelers have some 21 players that are scheduled to be unrestricted free agents. So they're going to be busy re-signing some of those, not all of them. But I see them signing a CB, either an outside corner or a nickelback, and then supplementing that and maybe in the draft. The question about, are the Steelers lollygagging? The problem is in today's NFL with the free agency, the Steelers don't control a lot of the players' futures. So right now, they don't have a quarterback under contract for 2025. And so, like, for example, and I think that they've indicated that they're interested in re-signing Justin Fields. But if I'm Justin Fields' agent, I want to wait until Monday because, hey, let's see what other interest is. Because if the Steelers are offering him $15 million and some team on Monday is offering him $20 million, well, now he's in a bidding war. So is he going to be worth $10 to $15 million a year, or $20 to $25 million a year, or more? Don't know. But if he were to sign with Pittsburgh before Monday, he'll never know what his market value is. He'll only know what he was worth to re-sign with Pittsburgh. So it's not a matter of Pittsburgh lollygagging. It's a matter of probably Justin Fields' camp and Roman Wilson, for that matter, basically saying, "Hey, let's wait until Monday. Let's see how much we're worth." It was Donald Parham that they signed, the tight end.
Yeah,
and
he used to be with the Chargers, right?
Yeah, but he didn't play last year. And I'm not sure if it was an injury or not, but he did not play in 2024.
I thought the Chargers cut him.
Yeah, and so he's 6'8", but he's like 240. He's like a thinner version of Darnell Washington. I think the purpose of signing him this way, they're letting go of the tight end that they had picked up for the Falcons last year, Michael Pruitt. So they're probably cutting ties with him. And, the 3 tight ends, having Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, and now Parham, if he works out in training camp, is that kind of fits with Arthur Smith's offense. He likes using 3 tight ends in his offense to accent the running game. So that, I think that's what's going on there.
Okay.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all heard this, but Coach Tomlin spent about 2 hours talking to Quinn Ewers last week. Asked him questions, real deep questions, like what was his favorite subject in college. And
well, I mean, the thing with Pittsburgh, I mean, they meet with as many players as they can, both formally and informally. And typically, teams take different approaches to their meetings with the players. Some of them kind of quiz them on plays and they're football savvy and this kind of stuff. And typically with Pittsburgh, with Mike Tomlin, it's all about learning who the person is.
Yeah.
They want to get to know it. And so it's going to be interesting how the draft plays out for them.
Mr. Scott, it seems like we're hearing a lot of things from the Raiders. Cosby says he'd like to have ayahuasca, but there's also going back to Pittsburgh, there's also everybody's talking about a reunion between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. Mr. Scott, do you see either of those happening?
Well, I'd actually like to see the Pete Carroll Russell Wilson. I mean, I'm not sure what his contract status is. I mean, is he still owed a lot of money? I don't really. Has it run out?
No, he's a free agent. Whatever Denver's done with their obligation. Whatever he can get.
Okay, and it doesn't seem like Pittsburgh is rushing to get a deal done with him or Fields. So I mean, I think Pittsburgh. I just think the whole thing is that, comes down to the elephant in the room, and we all know who that is. And I know that I'm not going to get into it right now because they're going to get all upset about it, and so that's okay. I mean, that's fine with me. But
like I said, Mr. Scott, I have no problem getting rid of Mike Tomlin as soon as you tell me who we're going to hire in his place.
Well, there's tons of coaches out there. There's
no. There's not tons of coaches.
Well, you're
There's
fixated.
only one.
You're fixated. You have a phobia. You're fixated on him. That there's nobody else that can do the job, and that's not true. That's not true. There's other people. There's other offensive coordinator. That's what they really should get. They need to get somebody offensive because their offense is really what's held them back. Ever since Big Ben has been gone, to me, that's what's held them back. No, their offense. Look at the quarterback situation. It's a mess. Whether you're just going to really call it like it is or not, I'm going to call it like it is. It's a mess.
If we call it like it is, Big Ben stayed 2 years too long.
Well, why was that? Because they didn't have a succession plan. Why was that? They knew he was coming towards the. See, that's what I'm saying. But you guys just give him with such, you have such affection for this man. He's just on it. You've been
Big Ben didn't want. What's his name? The kid that just got the Super Bowl ring with the
Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, it was Jason Rudolph. Yeah, he didn't want a successor. Big Ben thought he could do it all himself.
Well, Mason Rudolph wasn't drafted to be a successor.
The coach's call. It's not his call. It's the coach's call, and that's what I'm saying. This has been a failure, and so you're happy with it. You're happy with mediocrity. It's fine. If you love that, you've got your man.
We made the playoffs. Did the Vikings? How far did the Vikings go last year? Not this year.
14 wins. I already won that conversation. We have 14 wins.
Not this year, last year, the year before that.
We don't want to go with history.
Okay. But anyway, what did you think about like I said, who do you think that either Rodgers or Wilson will end up as a Raider?
I'm still not sure if Rodgers still wants to play. I mean, has there been any real definitive thing that says he wants to continue his career? I don't know if he wants to play. It's been lackluster the last few years with injury and over 40. Boy, I'm sure they're not going to give him a huge bag. Anybody that takes him. I mean,
he has $382 million in career earnings. He's already earned $382 million. How much more does he need?
Well, sometimes it's never enough. So. Yeah. But does he want to play? To me, that's the whole thing. And if there's an area he really wants to go and he wants to play, then But I haven't heard anything about that, so I don't know. they've even there was rumors that he's coming here, to Minnesota. You know, a
Yeah,
Brett Favre
yeah,
type of a thing.
yeah,
They've been talking about that it would be
yeah.
just
That's another rumor.
He
You know,
could mentor JJ and take him down for a little ayahuasca trip down in Central America.
loosen him up a little bit. Yeah.
he, he didn't want to enter.
Find himself.
So, Don, what do you think here? Do you think there's a possibility for either one of these guys to end up as a Raider? According to the Jets, ayahuasca, begged to come back. He said he was even willing to mentor, a young quarterback, something that he wasn't willing to do when he was in Green Bay. What do you think there, Don?
I don't see it. I really don't. Even teams that could use a quarterback. Again, talking about the Titans, the Saints, Indianapolis. I mean, I guess you go to Indianapolis and compete with Flacco. They're around the same age, right? I mean, I don't know, but I just don't see him. If I were in Vegas, I would go probably. I bet money he did play next year.
What do you think, Dave?
He's 42 years old, and if I'm a team, I could understand when he went to the Jets because there was a publicity value there in New York, but not many places have that kind of additional cachet. Where you have that limelight, and
Yeah, but with
for
the
most
Raiders,
teams, what does he have to offer them?
with the Raiders, Dave, you talking about the limelight. You got Pete Carroll, you got Tom Brady there.
Yeah, but I mean, Minnesota is not New York City. You don't get the the kind of money that you get from all the commercialization of his name and his image and all that kind of stuff. And
We're talking about Vegas.
if he's not starting, what value does he have? Because the problem is if you have him as a backup and your starter gets hurt, well, now you got a quarterback that's one sack away at 42 years old that you got to go to your emergency quarterback. I just don't see the value, and it would be interesting to see what. I'm sure the sports books have odds on whether he's going to be in the league next year or not.
I'm sure they do. Oh, yeah.
Like Don said.
What is it these Green Bay quarterbacks want to go to New York anyway?
Money. They make money.
Yeah, but didn't Brett Favre go there and send dick pics to some reporter?
Yeah,
he did, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So J.I. says that for the Raiders, he'll be a mentor / leader.
There you go.
But I don't. I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there was, a lot of things, Love was saying, that he felt, it was an uncomfortable situation. But Dave, final thoughts.
Well, number one, I was thinking about what Reggie. Atlanta hasn't been in the playoffs for 7 straight seasons. They would be rioting in the streets in Pittsburgh, and I hope I'm not jinxing the team. But man, I didn't realize it had been 7 straight seasons. My final thoughts. I think next week is, I'm kind of excited because Monday starts the legal tampering period. This is when agents can start talking to people about to become free agents. And then 4:00 Pittsburgh time on Wednesday, then all of a sudden the free agency period begins. And we're going to start to see some transactions. And that's going to impact the way teams draft. So I think and then we're going to be having the pro days and then the run up to the draft. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And then this weekend, I'm going to be watching some Big Ten wrestling. It's the Big Ten wrestling tournament in preparations for the NCAA's next week. And I'm looking forward to watching some good wrestling over the weekend. So that's all I got. And then hopefully Sue will be back next week with the Sue's Corner.
All right. Okay.
And Minnesota Gophers have a great heavyweight on their wrestling team.
Oh, yeah, and he'll probably beat Kirklevic from Penn State. Now, Jay's trolling. He said wrestling, the non-Olympic sport. He's getting trolls from the peanut gallery there, Jay. Come on. And, wrestling is the second oldest sport. The oldest sport is track, and then wrestling commenced whenever the guy chasing the other guy caught up to him, and then they got into a wrestling match. But
yeah, Jay's all over you here. Don, your final thoughts for the evening.
My final thoughts is something that just happened within the last few weeks. And it's been a bone of contention for last several years. I don't know why it became a big deal, because I guess common sense doesn't rule anymore. But this whole notion of grown-ass men competing against women, it's now been, I guess, forbidden. So long time. I don't know why. I don't know why we're having to talk about it, because common sense, grown men do not belong playing against women. I don't care if you cut your dick off or if you're low testosterone. I don't care. You are still a biological male. You don't need to play against women. Thankfully, common sense has prevailed, and it has been banned. And if I'm not that I have a daughter, but if I did have a daughter, I would want her playing against men, and I definitely wouldn't want my son beating up on women. So, as far as athletics goes, I'm glad that our country is turning against that nonsense. So that's my final thoughts.
Mr. Scott.
Well, I guess my final thought is yeah, I definitely co-signed the last statement, but I guess my final thought is last weekend my son, invited me to something at Target Center, and I thought it was going to be maybe a basketball game or something, but it was with his daughter in Disney on Ice. Oh, okay. So then we go downtown, and $25 to park. And, I said, oh, well, okay, that's not too bad. We park it across the street, and we get in. My granddaughter wants this little toy, this little bear. She has to have this. She has to have it. So I said, okay, you can have it. Okay. Then she needs a bucket of donuts. We got to get a bucket of donuts. That was 20.
Shit.
And then, they have the halftime, so the halftime, we have to go out and walk around, and she has to get this wand, this thing that lights up. So everybody has it in there, and they just, okay. So like, okay, you got it, And so, it was in Target Center. And one thing I can say, the skaters were just fantastic. That's something I could never, ever do. I tried it. I remember talking to my dad, give me some hockey skates. That was the big thing up here in Minnesota. Disastrous. Just disastrous. It fell down, ankles, nothing. Could never skate. But then, another thing about the show, it's like they're singing, but they're not really singing. They're just playing a record. And it's just a big, loud thing where they're going around with this record, and they're making like they're even having conversation with each other, but they're not really doing it. They're just moving their mouth, puppetry, but all in all, it was a very good experience with my granddaughter. She loved it. She got her little souvenirs, and but I was out 120. But what the heck? You're the grandpa.
Hey, Anthony, I don't know if you can see the comments, but Jay is saying,
you can't see him.
here's a guy wearing a Cadillac hat complaining about how much things cost.
When Anthony started that story, I said he's gonna cost between $200 and $500. Sorry, $150 and $200. So you got 120. That's not too bad actually.
So I got off easy, huh?
I've been to Disneyland. I've been to Disney World, and my wallet was quite light afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, that's coming up, so I'm preparing for it.
They had a true feature over what was it, True Adventure or what something in Disneyland, and a guy was talking about he had 4 kids and it cost $250 a piece.
Wow.
Yeah. So
All right, I'm not complaining. Okay, you've made your point. Okay, I'm not, we had a great time. It was a wonderful experience.
There you go. Right.
You're investing in the future, Anthony. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, you might as well do a few things before you leave the snowland. You keep threatening that you're gonna leave, so you might as well do a few things. Yeah. By the way, what's the temperature up there today?
Why do we have to go there? I mean, yeah, it snowed. It snowed like crazy last night. I had to hire 2 guys to come over here, and they shoveled it. I'm not going out there. I haven't even been out today. But it's supposed to be 50 in a few days, 50 or 60 in a few days, so it'll all be gone.
So, but what is it now?
Well, I don't know what it is. 24.
Okay. Well, at least you're above zero. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, always fun talking with you on Wednesday. Look forward to talking to everybody again. We'll be, of course. Got to ask you, Mr. Anthony, how's your Timberwolves doing? I see Ant-Man is decided he wants to pay the NBA. What is he at? Is he at 300,000?
Well, it's been kind of frustrating, but we got Julius Randle back and DiVincenzo. We're healthy now, so I think we're going to make this run. But I'm very afraid of, take my talents. And now with Luka, I'm very afraid of that. I mean, that looks like unless there's an injury that could happen with take my talents, the Lakers are going. That whole West is formidable. I mean, OKC, Wolves. Whole thing is you got to be in the first 6. You don't want to be in the play-in. So I think we'll do it. So
hey, and Jay said, "Great job, all of you. Appreciate your takes. Thank you for being good sports." So hey, thanks, Jay, because I don't know if you can see my comments, but appreciate Jay coming on.
Yeah, Jay. I missed Firebird tonight. I guess he'll be back too. Don, what's the latest on Pop and the Spurs?
Well, of course, y'all know Wemby has a blood clot in his shoulder, so he's out for the year. So right now, I'm hoping Spurs just tank everything and try to get another good draft pick coming up. Pop is out for the season. We knew that, and it's looking like he won't be back next year either. I think he's done. So I hate that it ended for him that way because he deserves to go out on his own terms. But you got to watch out for your health. So hopefully, Spurs can in the offseason find themselves a coach who can gel some of the team with Wemby and those guys. So we'll see.
No chance of them promoting within, Don?
They might. I don't know. What the ownership is look like nowadays. I know in the divorce, Peter Holt's wife, I think, got the control of the Spurs. I think, if I remember right. And of course, all that will probably hinge on R.C. Buford. Now, if you remember how Popovich became the head coach of the Spurs, he was general manager, and he fired what was his name? Hill, I think. Yeah, So, R.C. Buford might step in and say, you know what? I'll make myself the coach. I mean, that could happen. I mean, so we'll see.
Texas thing. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey,
one more thing. Timberwolves. I think Alex Rodriguez is now the owner of the Timberwolves.
Oh, is it that group finally?
Looks like that's happening. Looks like that's happening. So whether they'll even still be here, I mean, I don't know. But his group, him and Mark Laura, they're the new. I think they pulled that off.
It's a good thing Bo is in here because he'd have him in Seattle. But
Could be.
No, I think you guys got a good base there. I don't, unless something happens really, I don't see him moving the team, but I don't have that. I'm not the one with the money, so hey, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So hey, have a good weekend, everyone. Most of all, make sure everybody stays safe, and hope to see everybody back here next Wednesday.
All right.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.